this is Dr. Thompson. We are live in Memphis, Tennessee at the Cut Lab, and we're excited to have another shop talk. We're going to be talking about urban farming and how it can impact men's health, but more particularly Black communities in general. We want to talk about what the communities need here, and we want to talk about how urban farming can empower communities to be self-sufficient and to be supportive of our own health in general. So listen, sit back for a great conversation. We're excited. Let's get it going. How many of y'all been in the grocery store in the last few days? What does it look like, my friend? Huh? They got those people in there, right? But people buying stuff up, and if they have stuff on the shelf. How many of y'all seen empty shelves? Oh yeah, right. Now we know many of us have been. If y'all still here, we've been through this pandemic, or some people call it panorama. I don't know. Let's use the right word though. It's a pandemic, right? Yeah. And during that time, who do you think wasn't worried about this?
A lot of folks.
The people who could do what? Grow their own food. You think they was worried about what's in the grocery store?
Right?
They weren't worried about that, right? So just think about what, so what I want y'all to understand or think about is what it would look like for us. And I want y'all to start thinking about this through the rest of this conversation, right? What does it look like for us in our own community today to go back to that model? And check it out. So many of us we're not in a rural area, we're in the city, right? But guess what? We can still grow food here, right? And so these are the type of things that we want to try to establish, right, in the community. How many of y'all talk to me a little bit? Do you feel like, what do you think about how your community would benefit from having a farm? How can you see that in your mind? Would that be a benefit? Can you see it happening in your community? What effects do you think that can have for you today? What kind of positive effect? Okay. Who said that? What is GMO? How many of y'all know what that is, GMO? Who knows what that is? Who don't know what that is, GMO? Y'all brothers know what GMO is? Huh? No? All right. GMO. Tell us what GMO is. Can you tell us what it is?
Genetically modified food, like it's just like a banana or something. Wasn't always looking the way it certainly looks in our stores now. The more natural form of it was a lot different. And corn wasn't so yellow and pretty back in the 40s and stuff like that, but they made it more appealing and all that stuff. Some of that stuff got to do with how they make it look, Americanized or whatever, what they want it to be.
Yeah, like Sunday, I saw a video on
Let's go back.
So this is somebody growing I saw somebody grow beef patty. You know what I'm saying? They took a little molecule from actual beef patty, made another like.
They grew themselves. They come from the cow, right? They grew it in a little dish, right? So what we're saying is, if we can grow our own food, we ain't got to worry about this kind of stuff. Let me give y'all a couple of examples, right? So part of my training in school was science, right? So let me tell you what genetically modified means from a scientific standpoint. Basically, they want to make food that can last under crazy conditions. They want it to look pretty. They want it to be big. They want it to taste as sweet as possible. They want it. How many of y'all seen them little cutie oranges? It's real easy to peel, ain't it? Yeah. You know why that is? Because they modified it to do that. Right? So essentially, you go in these grocery stores, you see the real pretty stuff. It's easy to peel. It's super sweet. It's big, right? Genetically modified. Do you know what they use to genetically modify these things? They use the DNA of stuff like fish and flies. Literally, some of the corn you eating is a part fly. Might be protein, right? No. Listen, Listen, I went a couple years ago. I went to the grocery store and it was around a Super Bowl week, and I said, I got some friends coming over. I'm gonna make some wings, right? I'll make some wings, and I said, I'm gonna go get a pound of wings from the grocery store. I said, man, give me a pound of wings. He said, small or large? Right? They had chicken wings and they looked at the size of turkeys. I said, small, please. Right? Ain't no chicken supposed to be that big. Right? I mean, that chicken that you talking about couldn't even walk. Right? So my point is to say, right, if we can get our own food grown, we ain't got to worry about them doing stuff like that, putting stuff in there that we shouldn't be eating fried corn, and, strawberries that's mixed with fish DNA. Right? They were doing that in Norway, right? This dude in Norway decided, I want to go strawberries in the cold, right? But you know what they did? They took some of the strawberry and they put some salmon DNA in it. We got strawberries that grow in ice. Right? I don't know about you, I don't want my family to eat that. I don't want to eat it, right? And the reality is we don't really know what that stuff is going to do to it long term. Right? So, long and short of it, even if you go to the store, let's see if it's X, Y, Z, GMO. It is, and I would suggest you move on. Right? Anyway, so here's another example of why we need food in our own communities, right? He can give us food that ain't GMO, right? And we know it's going to be healthy. We know where it's been, right? My man here said jobs, right? Tell me about that job. How many of y'all know somebody need a job? Right. In my hometown, we have a farm that is inside of our main city park, and it employs neighborhood youth to grow all sorts of vegetables and herbs and fruit and stuff, right? So it teaches them, it gives them a job, it teaches them how to eat healthy, right? And it gives them, it teaches them a discipline, right? So there's that, right? How else can this benefit us? How else can it? So we're talking about urban farming.
You can hire some people to help run the farm and teach them how the process goes on planting seed.
Say it again. Plant the seed.
Planting seed, teaching the process.
So
I plan on starting my garden this year.
Start. So we got somebody talking about starting. How many of y'all will be interested in starting a garden? Right? I mean, even if you've never thought about it before, you should have this conversation with that man. Wait a minute, I start a garden. Please, right? Now, one of the things, I'm glad you said that. You said seed, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've learned is that prevent us from this is that our communities have lost touch with the ground. We don't even think about food that's coming from the ground, right? I have a friend of mine, she went to the store, she wanted to get some corn, right? And she said, go run up and give me some corn. And the little girl, she was seeing corn in the little plastic wrap, right? Inside she said, I ain't seen that, but I saw some corn with some lettuce around it.
You didn't even know what that was.
She wasn't even connected to, she didn't even realize that this is what corn actually looks like when they come out of the ground. She thought it was wrapped in lettuce. Right? So we gotta be able to be, we gotta reconnect to that.
Yeah, right? We was actually smarter as a whole in the 60s and fit in. We was better as a whole.
Tell me about that.
Oh, we knew how to farm. Mm-hmm. We knew how, we had trades. They taking the trades away, telling everybody, to go, which is nothing wrong with college. But you got to have a trade. Back then, the black men didn't have an education, but they can fix your car. They knew how to do things to be able to make a living. They was handyman around the house. They can build a house. They can fix a car. They knew how to farm. See, at this time of day, nobody know how to do that right now. So they missing that right now. This generation don't have a clue on how to turn the ground over or what to do to paint or do anything in the house. They don't know how to do that. They wasn't taught that.
Right, so Marcel's going to move us to the next question because this goes right into that. Go ahead.
All right, so our ancestors and stuff were, our grandparents grew vegetables and stuff in their backyards, and same as many HBCUs like Tennessee State University. How long has the history of agriculture science? How could urban farming be the game changer for black folks in Memphis?
right? So he just mentioned the seed. He mentioned, oh, you know, it's cool going to college, right? But one thing we got to know is that there are some universities that will teach us to do that. They use the term agricultural, right? Tennessee State is one that you all probably know about here, right? There's others. North Carolina Agriculture and Technical College in North Carolina. Southern University also has some of the things in Louisiana, right? Agricultural programs that are teaching people to go into this type of work, right? Be a farmer, be those sort of things, right? So the question is, how you know, and we've talked about some of this already. You know, how can this be a game changer? How do you think it will be a game changer for black folks, people of color in Memphis? What do you guys think?
My opinion, I think when you focus on stuff like tilling the ground and supplying for yourself and your family, it's gonna make you an overall better dad as a man, provider, and even like all the shooting and stuff like that that goes on in Memphis. When you say Memphis in particular, if people knew how to hunt, fish, and grow, you wouldn't have time to do stuff like that.
Right. It would occupy that time.
It basically puts you in a positive state of mind. It's almost like when you're cleaning up the house, you feel good kind of. While you listen to the music and clean. And the same thing when you out digging in the garden. It's hard to be negative and dig dirt at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, you can
It's a different type of digging dirt, right? It's a different time.
Yeah, you can try to be mad, but you can't just do it, you know. So in my opinion, it makes you an overall better soul or a better being. It's almost like meditation, you know.
Yeah. Just imagine though, like we got all these like saving lots, all these grocery stores in our neighborhood. I think about the meat departments, everything we got. It's all sour food, sour meat. We think about we put our own grocery stores back in these areas. You get your own farmers, bring black farmers back to the same neighborhoods like Fraser and loses a whole Kroger.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Imagine if we put our own version of a Kroger out here with black-owned products, everything from, you know, hair care all the way to the food.
Right. So
Let's take our community back.
take the community back, right? Take our families back, right? Take our health back, right? What are you gonna say?
I grew this.
Yeah.
You gonna feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna put it in everybody around you, so everybody kind of like you.
It's like watching your car. You think it drives better when you watch your car. It actually drives the same, but when you watch, you get on roll on and take it for the first minute, it drives good.
Right. And it's the same type of thing what you're saying, man. You start with a seed.
Yep, plant that seed.
And you got food, you produced that out of the ground, right? You watered it, you planted it, right? And now it can be something that can feed you and feed your family and feed the community, right? There's a pride that goes with it, right? You know, what do you think that pride will do to our community?
It brings us back to what we once was.
Tell me about that.
Well, you know, like I said, this day and age we've been taught, it's part of the plan to get us further away from the family, put more women in the house, take the men out the house. All that's been part of the plan. And so far they've been succeeding with it.
Right. And listen,
It's a part of the plan.
we got all these, you know, we got all these men in here. I'm gonna be 100 with y'all. We got to do better.
Absolutely. You got to reverse
All of
the
us, we got to do better. I need y'all to understand that we are called to be the leaders, bro. In our homes, man. Think about if all of us decided to be the leaders, like true leaders in our homes. Think about what our communities would be like. You know, I really appreciate my dad. Let me tell you this here. My father he showed me a lot of things about this kind of stuff. You know, like he was a dude who would see a drug dealer on the corner and he walked up to him and said, "Look, I know what y'all doing, and if you don't stop it, I'm calling the police." But most of us are scared, right? And I'm not saying you should, you know, use wisdom, right? But I admired that because he was willing to go and stand for his community and his family. Say, this crap don't belong here. We are better than this, and we want our communities to be better. And I want you to think about what it would be to have that pride in our community, such that we are willing to stand up and do those things, take care of our health, do some farming, stuff like that, to lead our communities in that way. We got to do that, man. We got to do it. You know, we have to do it.
Yeah,
So
you start from home because you can't learn it in school. They won't teach you in school.
right.
So if you don't learn it in school, you don't learn it at home, you don't learn in the streets or at church. There's no other place to learn from.
And those places, right, need to step up, right?
Exactly.
We got to do that. Now, so let me say this to you. There are a few things that, it's not an easy thing. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm about to go out here and go down the corner and plant some corn, right? Now, you could do that, but it's not necessarily an easy thing. Life ain't easy, man, right? We got stresses, right? These days, race and racism. Right? How many of y'all have know somebody that's been messed up by the police, or have run into the law, or have come across a racist person?
And you talking to them.
Right?
I'm from this city.
Yeah.
I'm from the Delta.
Yeah. And so you've heard of Mississippi, huh, boy? Right? Right? So you got to deal with that stuff, right? For some of us, money is an issue, right? Right? Relationships, right? Hey, listen, you trying to bring two people in the house to get together, it ain't easy, man. You got to have some compromise. You got to be able to get along, right? It can be a stress, right? You got jobs. You got health, right? Many of us sitting right here have had to go to doctors for different health conditions, right? That probably could have been avoided, right? Now, how do you think urban farming can help those stresses? How do you think? Tell me. How do you think urban farming can help those stresses? Dealing with racism, dealing with job issues, dealing with relationships, dealing with health. How do you think it can help?
A lot of them problems that you will face, you don't have to because you go on your own, so you don't have to deal with the other side. Basically, you self-sufficient. So you can take care of a lot of stuff on your own without involving the people that you had to use before.
Yeah. So some of those things can look. We talked about this. The health piece with where your food's coming from, right? The jobs. You can work that, right? And let me pause by saying this. Listen, some of y'all might be like, man, I don't know this urban man. What's this about? Listen, folks, you can make money doing this. y'all feel me?
Yeah.
You can make some money, man. It ain't just because I'm doing this for my family. Listen, you can grow stuff and you can sell it to organizations who looking to buy food, man. To sell it for. What?
That's another thing. That's one of the benefits of growing your own food. I went to Kroger some months back, man, and I was in the produce section.
Yeah.
And I looked up on the wall, and they got like Johnson family, 04 to 2010, Jackson family, 08 to 2020, stuff like that.
22.
You know what I'm saying? These people been selling to these companies for quite some time, and that's building generational wealth too.
Right. So here's the thing. We want to be very specific in what we're talking about. We want to support black farmers and farmers of color. And let me tell you why. Because historically, even when we've grown those things, we still got the short end of the stick. Some of the farmers that he talked about that's on their wall, one of the reasons why they were able to advance the way they did is because they got help from the government. What they call subsidies, money subsidies, right? But they wouldn't give it to the black farmers. They wouldn't give it to them. So we was doing the best we could with old equipment, used equipment, making do what we got. And they had these big, fancy tractors and stuff that they was able to afford because they got money from the government to do it, right? Well, we're gonna talk about that in a minute, but we have some grants and stuff that are now available to all of us, right? And my friend Jesse Chisholm, some of y'all know, one of your state representatives. He was at our last talk here, and he told us about his family. How many of y'all know about a Chisholm? I think it's a Chisholm grocery store or something. Chisholm Trade, right? That was his family. They were the only black-owned grocery store like almost in the country left, right? I think they closed like in the last few years, right? But think about what that might mean for us to start something like that back up, right? Some people might call it a co-op. How many of you know what that is, a co-op? Anybody ever heard the term co-op? You know what that is, young man? Right, you want to tell them, what is a co-op? Anybody know what that is?
So it's a line between different types of organizations. You know, you take your black, you got your farmers that actually grow corn, you got your guys that actually may have cows, but the farmers align themselves and they align with the same grocery store, like a black-owned grocery store, but it makes kind of a hierarchy of a chain. Grocery store needs the farmers, so they all kind of come together to make sure everybody gets their need, and then make sure so much of the product is being purchased by the same people locally, so everybody makes money.
Right, so it's not technically a grocery store, but it's constant because it's not necessarily a big corporation, right? It's basically like a grocery store that's owned by the people, right? So the people get the profits, not just one company, right? Think about if we establish something like that, right? We not only are we growing the food, right, but we also the ones that's selling it and getting all the profits from it, right? And it's staying in where? In our community. Listen, we gotta stop the mindset of we can't do like they do, cause we can. Now, we may have some obstacles that they may not have, right? But we were some resilient folks. People been trying to take us out for thousands of years. They're trying to take us out. And guess what? We're still here. You know, some people say we like roaches. No. We're not. Definitely not like that, you know.
I work in banking, man. I can't tell what bank I work in, man. We got a lot of money out here. We just don't know what to do with it. You know, overall, man, I see these accounts, man, I'm like, what are you gonna do with this money that you got? I don't know, I'm just sitting on it, I'm holding it. You know, 3, 4, 5 brothers came in, all got 100 grand in their account. I mean, you can buy a whole neighborhood. These kind of people don't come together because we're all so separate. We want to stay in our group. You know, we don't do enough to get together to learn what each person needs so we can all kind of work together.
Absolutely.
Marcel, let us go to the next question here.
All right. So Tennessee House Representative Jesse Chisholm introduced a bill, HB 0799, in the last legislative session. Tell us a bit more about the bill and how this could benefit the black community in Memphis.
Right, so Representative Chisholm was with our last talk we did here in Memphis. He couldn't be here today, but essentially he's in Nashville and he's proposed this thing called House Bill 0799. Essentially what it does is it provides opportunity for neighborhoods like your neighborhood, right, to have access to land to start doing the farming, right? And it's working in conjunction with the USDA, and you know we can put you guys into in context. We love to help to guide you to do this, but this is something that's coming down the line, right? And it will give us access because see that's one of the things we say, man, I ain't got no land. There are some opportunities coming down with our government, right, where we can get access to that land. How do you think it could benefit the black economy? How do you think it could benefit the black economy? Say everybody has access to certain land. I want you to kind of just start thinking about what that looks like. Right? The street that you live down, think about, let's see, anybody see any vacant lots? Anybody see vacant lots in your neighborhood? See that vacant lot? You ever wonder what's going on with that or what could we use it for? You ever think about that?
Vacant lots, vacant land.
Vacant lot, what do y'all think? When you see that, let me ask you that question. When you see the vacant lots in your neighborhood, what does it make you think about? What can we put there? Anybody else? What do you think about with those vacant lots?
I was just thinking the other day, man, I was talking to one of my clients. I told them, I wish we had a food market like they did back in the day that's outside. You just go there, get some oranges and some watermelons and bananas. And that's what they used to do with vacant lots a long time ago.
The farmer's market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even like fish and meat and stuff like that.
What build what? A forge.
Yeah, when you
Tell us
farm
about
it.
this.
Alright, so if we're you're trying to plan on like doing all this farming stuff, you need equipment like rakes, plows, stuff like that. It costs money to keep buying them from the store, and you got to keep up your own maintenance on the motorcycle more out. So if you have, I'm a blacksmith already, so I know how to make axes, I know how to make knives, I know how to make.
So everybody understand what a blacksmith is? Everybody, okay, all right.
So, but sometimes what people will want is like they will come to me and they will want like their sickles, you know, that they use to cut the corn. They will want them sharpened. They will want another sickle, stuff like that. They will give me old tools to make to like replace little parts on there that were on their tools. So I weld them together and stuff like that. And to build a forge, you don't need a lot. You just need dirt, maybe some bricks, and coal or wood. That's about it. But that's definitely something that's needed when you're doing a whole lot of farming through an extended period of time. And that can save you a whole lot of money in the process. Plus it's fun to hammer hot steel.
This brother talking about, we talking about putting flex. He talking about making stuff with iron, right? But I mean, that would be dope, right? So the flex of it is, we can go down to his lot, and he down there like, making knives and sickles and stuff he can use to farm with, right? Hey, you know, why not? Why can't we have a forge? You know, why not?
We're trying to bring the watering system back around here.
Say again?
We're trying to bring the watering system back.
Barter system, okay.
And I would say too, like just really a community hub to both like the farmers market network in general. Like for instance, I know like I've seen some grandparents, grandmas, they know how to make, they make like 100 pies, they give them out. You know, like if you can help grandma out, like hey, I've made these pies with Marcel's berries and with Patrick's marketing, now creating a business out of it. Then that teaches skills, entrepreneurship. Hey, Jamal, like we're gonna try to convince these customers to buy your grandma's pies, like and how to actually talk to people and interact with people. And like I said, just building that network and that collection of people, and you create a whole industry.
Yeah. You want to say something?
Oh no, I disagree with it.
Okay.
There's a lot of things we can do with these empty lots.
Yeah.
You can start a lot of new small black businesses like that.
Right.
Especially here in Memphis on Saturday, they do a lot of when they set up outside and they sell their old clothes and stuff. I forgot what you call it, but they do a lot of it here in Memphis. Yard sales. Yeah. So we can do a lot of yard sales on the empty lots, and people support that around here.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, some of y'all looking at these lots and like, look, I'm not just thinking about farming, not just farming, right? But the things that maybe I can purchase farming tools from, right? Or just setting up a business that can support something in our community.
Exactly.
Think about what it would be like. Think about what it would be like for black communities and communities of color if everything we needed was right in our community, right? My mother grew up in a project in New Orleans, right? In the 50s and the 60s, right? And you know what she said to me? She said, I didn't even know I was poor. She said she didn't know. You know why? Because in her neighborhood, there were black businesses, there were black professionals, there were black doctors, they didn't have to go nowhere. Now some of that because, other folk didn't want them in their shops, right? But the reality is that they were sufficient, they were self-sufficient, right? You think about like an area, I don't know if any of y'all been to the city of Atlanta, Auburn Avenue, you've heard of that. You should look up the history of Auburn Avenue. Auburn Avenue in Atlanta was a black, almost like a black business mecca. It was black business. I mean, you didn't have to go nowhere. You didn't have to go nowhere to the community. There was black grocery stores. There was black banks. There were black doctors, dentists. The teachers. School, it was all in our own community, right? Now, I'm not trying to say, I don't want y'all to think he was telling us we need to segregate again. I ain't saying that.
No, things was better before segregation.
Well, and so we could argue that. Some people would argue, man, before we integrated, man, it was good, right? But what I'm what I'm saying is that aside from any integration or segregation talk, I'm just talking about the community,
Right.
as it is, and who lived there. Period. Right? Think about what it would look like for us to have our own stuff and stuff that would benefit us, right? When we think about, so look, and do this fourth question. He's going to segue into what I want to get to. Go ahead and answer that fourth question.
Alrighty. So for every 100,000 people in Shelby County, there are 73 fast food restaurants, but only 20 grocery stores. How will bringing more urban farming into Memphis and Shelby County impact food access and public health conditions?
Right, so going along, when we talking about bringing stuff into our communities, right, we got to think about what's in our communities now. Right? Let me ask you something. How many of y'all have fast food restaurants right around where you live? Fast food restaurants.
It's a trap.
Churches, chicken, KFC,
Liquor stores,
pawn shops,
gun stores.
Right, now let me ask you a question. In communities that are not uncovered, I'm just gonna say it that way.
They don't have that.
Do you see that?
You see Whole Foods,
Trader Joe's, right?
Tractor Supply.
Right? Tractor Supply, right?
You might see what they call the barrel, what it called? Cracker Barrel. You might see that. And it's still racing.
My nigga said Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel, that's a rope right there.
Oh, Lord. Right? So we got some purposeful words like the word cracker. Some people have different definitions of that, right? We ain't talking about super crackers. But here's the point, right? Why do you think it's not in their neighborhood?
They do not.
I got two main reasons. I'm gonna see if y'all hit it. What do you think? Why is it not in their neighborhood?
They petition not to have it in their neighborhood.
Because they won't let it.
And they know it's bad.
They make fuss about it. You'll find them in the government meetings, the city council. No. Why?
They know what it brings. They know kind of.
Because they know it ain't good for it.
It's
Hello? They know it.
If you eat the fast food, you get sick and you have to go to the doctor. So if they don't have fast food, the doctors can't make money.
Hey.
It's all a setup.
Do I need to say anymore? Right? They know it ain't good.
That's why you never see like a liquor store in that neighborhood. All the liquor stores in the black neighborhood.
It's all wine spirits.
So, right?
Exactly.
And if it is, spirits, it's real fancy.
Yeah, they gonna blend it in. It ain't gonna be your own color.
Fine wine and spirits, right? And we'd be like liquor,
No, you got to reverse the curse. You're saying everything right. You got to say if we don't support the restaurants, they can't stay open. If you cook more at home and start going organic, or like you said, growing your own stuff, you don't have to worry about that. Then they will be forced to close down because they're not going to drive across town to come support the Wendy's in my neighborhood. It's going to soon close down.
Let me ask you something. Do you see people who not from your neighborhood coming in there to buy some bunch of KFC?
No, they'll come over here for soul food.
Yeah.
They will, right?
You got to be somebody that knows somebody. They got to be known for it, But yeah,
but that's about it.
That's about it.
But we can argue that that's cultural appropriation, right?
Now I'll say too.
Being trendy, ooh, we love that soul stuff, man. Right? Were you saying something, bro?
Yeah, but I was about to say, and the other thing I think too is because corporations, whether like Burger King, whatever, they're not putting money back into the community.
Not at all.
Like that will be the consumers, and we'll put money in their pocket, but what are they really giving back to us as a collective? And that's why the other reason I feel like they don't want those Burger Kings or McDonald's or whatever in their communities, because like we're not getting money out of it, so why have it open?
Get money out of it?
Yeah.
Your health ain't good.
They put a Family Dollar on every
corner, so they ain't putting that in their neighborhood.
Right.
No family dollars in their neighborhood.
But yet, I know the neighborhood that I live in, every day, the line for Popeye chicken be around the corner. Every day. I mean, every night. You meet the line be spilled out to the street.
Hey, Popeyes and Chick-fil-A #1.
And the only option that we got is Popeyes, Burger King, Taco Bell, Wendy's, right? I don't like the McDonald's, but we got all the rest of that stuff, right? Right? That's all. You know, if you get hungry, if you don't have a garden, if you didn't go to the grocery store, whatever, even that's all you got. You know, that's all you got, right? So if we think about, the fact that these things are in place in our communities, right? And we think about the impact that urban farming can have, right? How do you see that being, impacting your food access? And that's the issue, the access. The fact that that's only what we got around, that's a function of access that we have, right? Nobody wants to drive 10 miles to go get some fresh food, really. You know what I'm saying? You want to be able to do that, where you at, right? And so there's an issue of access. What if you don't have a car? What if you only have a bike? What if you catch a bus? What if you gotta walk somewhere? You can't go that far to get that food fresh. So we have what you call an access issue. Some people call it a food desert. How many of y'all ever heard that term? Y'all heard that? Food desert. What you know about food desert, young brother? What is it? Huh? Not a lot of food around, right? Not a lot of healthy food, right? Right? So a lot of our communities end up being these food deserts, right? Right? And it gives us problems with our, what we consume, and it ultimately impacts our health in a bad way. So we have urban farming, right? How did this improve the access that we have and the access that we have to maybe health? So because a huge part of our health is what we eat. How many of y'all know that? How many of y'all know that? A huge part of your health is what you eat, right? How many of y'all know, or people who have certain chronic conditions, right? But when you look at, they always talk about, I got this problem, I don't know what's going on, but then you look at what they eat. What they eat?
They will.
What they eat? Bunch of bread, sugars, processed stuff, right? And wondering why they got aches in the joints, and why they got diabetes, and why they got high blood pressure, right? Do you see other communities eating that stuff? We call it eating, like the wonderful people, right? Wink, right?
And I had a
Wonderful.
rheumatoid, not rheumatoid, it was a doctor came in my bank, and he focused on lupus.
Okay.
And clients that have lupus and people that have gout. The more black men that have gout than there are any other group.
Why is that?
Types of food, uric acid that's in the food.
Right.
Then
So
women.
it's a bunch of people eating a bunch of meat and no vegetables. How many of y'all like vegetables? Be honest with me now. Let me ask a better question. How many of y'all don't eat vegetables? I appreciate you being honest with me, young brother. How many don't eat vegetables, right? A lot of us, some of y'all lying right now, that's all right. Sorry. People lie to doctors all the time. But what I'm saying, a lot of people don't. I know, I'm thinking about a few people I know, they just want to eat meat, potatoes, starch, that's it. They're not trying to eat no vegetables, right? And that ends up in conditions like this man is talking about, gout. When you eat all that meat, all that protein, your body puts this thing called uric acid. And what it does is it goes to your joints and it forms these little crystals. Ouch. Right? These little sharp little crystals on the inside of your joints. It's got to be eaten. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, because now that you mentioned that, I was thinking it could not only affect your physical health, but like your mental health and your mood in general as a result of that. But yeah, just overall, because if I got if I'm eating crappy food, like that grease come out of your system, I might be a little bit tired. I have less patience people in general. So, you know, and that in itself can cause, you know, different things probably escalate to where it shouldn't be something petty. It shouldn't escalate to that.
So you're bringing in mental health. Right, you bringing in, we got to let our brother, my brother right here got a shirt on saying Black Millennials therapy. Right? And just as an aside, how many of y'all ever went to therapy? Just all listen. Let me tell you why, and we got to get over that stigma. Bro, go to the therapist. Please go. Let me tell you, every sane person, everybody in their right mind that I know, they got a therapist. All of them. And the reality is, we dealing with some crazy stuff today, right? Looking at what happened to George Floyd, looking at what's happening to people who don't look like us as opposed to what's happening to us, looking at the crowded jails and bunch of people looking like us, dealing with folk who hate us still because of the way we look, dealing with crazy stuff like that in the workplace still. We need to talk to somebody, man. If there ever was a time, right, we need to talk to somebody, us, right, and don't let it be no stigma like it's, you know, like it's embarrassment, bro. I'm staying healthy. Somebody, you know, if somebody got a problem with that, I'm trying to stay healthy as best I can, and I'm out there to go talk to somebody, so I won't take it out on my family. Hello, let's get it done, right? So that mental health aspect is also key, because studies have shown that if you eat food that is really healthy, right, it allows your body to produce the right nutrients to keep your mind strong. How many of y'all eat something? How many of y'all eat something you really like? What does that make you feel like in your mind?
Make you feel good.
Yeah. Right? Or if somebody, let's say you haven't eaten in a while and you eat something real good, how you feel? You might be like, ooh, that's the best meal I ever had in my life, right? Right, and that's because your body's producing certain hormones, right, that are causing you to feel better in your mind, right? But the other thing is true too. If you don't eat the right stuff, those same hormones are not produced, and you start feeling bad. You know, you start feeling bad. You know, I remember one weekend, man, I was eating healthy and all that stuff, and then one day I went to some barbecue, and I had a bunch of stuff that I just should have been eating, man, and I'm sitting there like, nobody ain't talking to me, I'm just mad. I'm just feeling bad, like, what am I mad for? Anybody did nothing to me, right? And I realized at some point, I'm like, man, this is like because of what I've been eating, man. It's like, it's coming through my own mental health, right? So again, another benefit of having urban farming, right? Even for your better mental health, right? Eating fruits and vegetables that are specific to certain vitamins and minerals to your body that affect your mind, your physical self, right? Does that make sense to y'all? So having access to those things, another benefit of having urban farming in your communities. Go to the next question for me. How many are y'all learning something here today? Are you feeling motivated to do some better things in your community? Go ahead.
Ooh, this is funny.
That's what we be on here anyway, to be honest with you. This is what we talk about on the first. Good.
Alright. President Joe Biden signed an executive order earlier this year enacting the Justice 40 initiative, which will mandate the minimum 40% of environmental justice funding will go to Black, brown, and historically oppressed, disenfranchised communities. How do you foresee some of these coins coming down the pipe to support programs the Urban Agriculture Zone Act could provide?
Right. So let me kind of put that into words that's a little bit easier. So President Biden, right? You know, y'all seen all these big infrastructure bills that he's trying to pass to get some money to communities. So one part of that is this thing called the Justice 40 initiative, right? And so some of that money is set aside for what he calls environmental justice, right? And some of that involves food justice, which includes urban farming and stuff like that, right? So it's basically what he's saying is out of millions and millions of dollars that's going to go towards that, 40% of it has been set aside, will be set aside to send the community just like yours to make it to, well, let me come back to that, brother. No, I'm with you, I feel you. So 40% of them, those millions of dollars, right, is gonna be earmarked to come and go to the community just like yours to do some of the things that we talking about. Black Millennials with Flint, the president and CEO of it, Mr. Tracy Adams, she behind this wall over here, right? She is actually on the White House Council to make sure that money gets there. She goes up to Washington and sits in a room with these people and tell them where this needs to be and why. So that's one of the reasons why we're here, is because we want to know what issues you got and where you see the issues going on in your community and what you see needs to be done with that money.
The biggest problem Memphis has right now is housing.
Okay.
Right now, rental property here in Memphis is all-time high. Man, you go rent a house here in Memphis, anything decent, I say you want to look at 15 and above. Other than that, in January, then they're coming through like all the neighborhoods that was black on, starting with being Hampton for one. Terrible, and that's new as we speak. But now, it won't be long, but they're going to tie it back into property. They got same houses over there, the houses I could have bought for $20,000. I looked over there last month. The same houses, almost $300,000.
Yeah.
For a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot without a house being on it.
Yeah.
But why is that? So that they jack up the prices. You don't have, the community doesn't have the money to purchase it. It's almost like herding. They herd you to the west side of the city they want you in.
Right. No, I appreciate you saying that, man, because that's a legitimate concern, and that's happening all over the country, right? I went to the city, even on the West Coast. I went and visited the city of Phoenix, Arizona, a few months ago, and I stayed in this hotel. And at some point, I realized that there was a bunch of people in that hotel because they couldn't afford nowhere else to live. They were in there, it was kind of a government trying to get them off the street, literally. And it was families living in there because they couldn't afford somewhere to live. It's a huge thing. And I will say to you that it is a part of what we can call environmental justice.
You think that you always see signs there where you go, cash for your house. Or you got commercials come on TV now. I buy your house, no ass is, they buy your house. They buy your house and then jack the price up there and they raise the price so high that you can't afford to live in the own neighborhood that you grew up in. Downtown Memphis, of course, they say they fixed it up, okay, yeah. But how many people's gonna actually afford to move back down to downtown as of now? Downtown Memphis was almost a slum until you got so far down in there.
Yeah. So let me say this to you. One of the things that we believe in doing these shop talks, and I believe this in my life, right? I'm not trying to come and be like a savior in somebody's community and say, hey, we're gonna do this in your community, right? And we're gonna make it better for you. I don't think I should do that because I don't really know what you mean, right? Because I may not live there, right? So what I want to know is, so part of what I'm asking here, and you're asking some good questions. I want you to tell me what you think your community needs. Because there's a reason why we're filming this, right? We filming this because we're gonna take the notes on this. I'm saying I don't believe in just. I'm saying I want to know what you think this money should be used for in your community and how it can be best used from what you see and experience. Right.
They spike these prices up to where you can't afford it, so it forces you to move out because you no longer afford it. So it's a few things you gotta look at, man. Like number one, you have, like you said, we grew up in these communities, right? But the one thing that people say, like, man, I can't wait till I grow up, I make some stuff, I'm gonna move out the hood, and I'm gonna go to Germantown or something like that, or I'm gonna go to California or something like that. But what they fail to realize, you gotta start seeing more value in the community that you grew up in, more than the guys who are on the outside coming in, because what they see in these communities, they see that these hoods are more profitable to them than us.
We don't value.
We don't value. Right. So we got to literally invest in our own community. And one of the biggest things is the lack of education. You know, he spoke on the Joe Biden thing. Yeah, they put it out. They say, all right, bam, this is accessible for us. But what they fail to do is come into these communities and educate us on how to get it. You know what I'm saying? So, but you know, if we don't come and ask for that education to learn more about it, then they just gonna let it just go back to the next term, and then they're gonna say, oh well, we're gonna throw that out because that was in the last term. So we miss out on that opportunity.
Most money goes back to the same money that they say they allocate to those majority to get more prisoners.
Okay. This is good. This is good.
It's like, man, it's like modern day slavery all over again.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying some of the money is given to prison. So I'm taking note. I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna go right here.
I'm feeding into everything they're saying. Keeping back off what you're saying. That was my concern for the gentrification in our communities and everything. The scare about that is once we do build up these communities and make them what they should be, usually what happens is they move people like us, more of a poor aspect, you know, they usually move us out. So it's like, how do we confirm that that money that they're gonna use to rebuild us is gonna be for us? Or are we gonna continue this scattering, you know, that's been going on?
Right. These are great questions and great comments. And so let me bring it full circle. Again, this is why I want to spot with people today. Because one of the issues that we've had is that we haven't had anybody at the table to make those decisions. We haven't had people at the table to make those decisions. What I'm saying to you is, for instance, the young lady I told you that is the president of Black Millennials for Flint, she is at the table.
And she's Memphis born and
She's
raised.
Memphis born and raised. And she's at the table. And again, that's why we filming it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to take everything you saying and we're going to take that to the table. Right? Someone who's at the table to make sure that that money goes where it's supposed to be. We heard you say, we got this education issue. We heard you say, one of the issues is that even when the money is, we have certain access to it, nobody shows us really how to do that, like dot the I's and cross the T's and what specific moves. Part of that money can be to set up programs to do just what you're saying. To set up an office in that community and say, hey, come here and we're gonna show you how to do this. Right? We wanna help that money that I talked about, that 40% of that millions of dollars, to use it for those things you're talking about. And when we're talking about urban farming, right? How do we make sure that this stuff that we not moved out is that we own it and have sustainable means to keep it. They can't kick us out if we pay them taxes, right? And if we set up, say for instance, one of the benefits of the urban farming we've been talking about the whole time is the economic benefit. If we can produce our own food and we can sell our own food on our own land and put our own taxes, they can't do that.
You know what?
They can't do it.
The great thing.
But we gotta be committed.
45 miles from here is Sarda, Mississippi. And there's young guys out there actually doing this, what you're talking about doing that. And there are younger, some of the guys in here cutting hair. That's the crazy thing about it, is Mississippi have always been called way racist, one of the most racist states it is. But what I do know is the difference between the young guys that I meet down there and the guys I meet up here. You got guys out there 20-some years old, and they don't just rent. They have their own land. They got land, cows. But a lot of people look down on them. But I'm telling you, they have their own trailer trucks and everything. You know what I'm saying? And they're actually trying to start their own business. And they own it. They're in their early 20s. Right. But it's a mindset. So as far as Memphis, it's a mindset. It's something's got to change because. I mean,
right. So, you know, we talked about, this is before you came in, right? One thing we talk about is the benefits of urban farming, right? Is that it provides jobs and an opportunity to teach youth about the sort of things you're talking about, right? So it's when we talk about this as a root of what we're talking about, urban farming and how it's going to help health and how it is and help our communities, right? It's hitting at everything you're saying, right? And so we're here. We want to help the community to do that, and we need the feedback that you give it, right? So that we can take it to the. By the way, she ain't gonna say that, but this is the young lady I've been telling you about, right there, that Jill Lizzo and me shirt. She don't want to say nothing, but that's the one she at the table. Wave your hand. That's Ms. Tricia Adams, right? So she was born and raised in Memphis and can take these concerns to the table.
And to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, because that's definitely true with Mississippi. I got a lot of family in Mississippi. The thing, and we kind of touched on it earlier, because I feel like we're operating in silos. Everybody doing their own little thing, and what we need to do is coordinate and collaborate and be intentional about how we go about, like you said, teaching those values, connecting those systems. Hey, you got a farm, and hey, I got somebody looking for a little man looking for a job, came work under there and we work something out. And once we get that intentional aspect of the bigger picture of what we're trying to do, that's where it starts building and growing.
So let me say this to you. One of the things that we do believe, right, is not only talking about it, but being about it. Anybody here like that? Right? So I'm not gonna give a whole bunch of details right now, but I will say to you that we are working on a project right now where we're gonna purchase some land and make an example of this for the community. We're working it out right now, and we're looking at some of the same questions and issues, concerns that you raised, right? About gentrification, what it looks like to keep the land and make sure they don't move us somewhere, right? And we can produce our own and make a sustainable model to teach our kids to be able to do this for the foreseeable future, to own our own communities, support our own communities, right? And when we able to do that, right, we can't keep it. Like, they can't move us now. You can't move nothing. Now, I ain't telling y'all to stop praying now. I ain't telling y'all to stop praying. But we need some help. Some of it needs to be supernatural on top of our natural. Hello? Y'all talk back to me now. Don't look at me like that. You make me nervous. Okay? All right? So, but we need to make sure that we're committed to that work, right? So yeah, that's what that looks like. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about, like in terms of what the community here needs? We want you to talk. I don't want to sit there and talk. My mouth getting dry and stuff. Y'all tell me. Talk to me now. Talk to me.
We gotta train the kids. Mm-hmm. It's not too late for us. You know what I'm saying? It's not too late for us, but it's only so much that you're gonna be able to do, to get ahead with the process. But if you catch the kids before they get into the life of, man, I gotta, my car's gotta look like this. I gotta have the kind of chains on and stuff. Just like you said, the Mississippi boys down there, they care less about that. It ain't about that, man. Them guys coming up here, they got the money in their accounts, but they may not dress. They got a different mindset. They got a different mindset. They're not trying to impress a certain type of lifestyle. So you can grab, the 7-year-old, show him how to grow a plant, grow some tomatoes, right in his home. Teach that in the school. They're not teaching that in science. It's more so virtual learning. We do this, but if you say, hey, here goes some seeds, I'm gonna send you the entire bio system. Y'all gonna grow some tomatoes at the house. Right. And then next year, y'all gonna have to grow 10 tomatoes, and then that's your science project. It's still the same thing that you learning about how to germinate a seed, through that system. So let's go ahead and catch them early, so they're more interested. Just like STEM. You know what I'm saying? If I knew about STEM in Whitehaven, I knew about STEM in high school, same stuff we're doing now. I'll be in a whole different space. So same thing with agriculture. Catch them before they get to that point where their mind has already been tainted by this lifestyle. Right.
And teaching the value in it long term, because eventually we all is gonna have our time, but then the next generation picks up that torch. And I think that's the beauty of it, because it really connects our people generation to generation. But you know, because I get calls somehow all the time, like folks trying to buy my parents' house. We live in a good community, known all my neighbors for 20 years. They're trying to buy the property and turn it to apartments. I'm like, stop calling. Because nah, it's more important and it's bigger than that. It's about our community, our people, our families.
I actually feel like we're trying to reverse something, man, that they put in effect I would say almost 20 years ago.
They took corporal punishment out of school, first of all, when kids don't get be disciplined. In 20 years, you look at the average person that you say now is about 20 years old that calls them, I think most of the mayhem is in the street today. You took corporal punishment out of school, you took praying out of school. Now, them same kids that couldn't get disciplined and were never taught right or wrong are the same one producing kids that are here in the streets now, causing most of the trouble. But yet, we yet again got to pick up the pieces, and we got to not only raise them again, now we got to raise them and their offsprings. It's like at some point, they got to stand up and be their own person, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing about it, I think too, is like, you did a good job like saying where we are, and it doesn't really imagine where we want to go and how does it look like. And if you really just visualize it and picture it, because I don't know, like y'all really been paying attention, especially these, I know, because I'm 29, and just seeing so much advocating, fighting, especially from our people of color, for change. We're on the we're on the beginning of this big movement and change that's about to happen, and it's going to take every single one of us. Like it's a lot of bad. It's a lot of bad crap that happened years before. Some of it we're also responsible for, system, society, what have you, being oppressed. But we have the opportunity to really make a difference, y'all. Right. And it's gonna impact generations. My kids, I don't have a kid right now. Future kids, grandkids, and not only restore our people to where we were respected, have power, and feel good about ourselves, but I'll say even go beyond that.
Yeah. Right, something more than carry without a gun in it.
Yeah.
So man, that's one of the main issues that get Memphis when they just open carry thing.
But guys, anybody can walk around with a gun, you ain't got to have a permit. Our crime rate went through the roof. Any progress that you had with trying to talk to anybody that was younger than you, it's almost, it's like, you know, it falls on deaf ear. Because you almost now, if you say anything to them, before they listen to you, they'd rather shoot you than to listen to you now.
Right. So let me say this to you guys. You know, and it's something I want you to, I want everybody here to listen to this. And, you know, when we're talking about, you know, training, you know, kids and generations coming, right? And how urban farming can be a part of that, right? It's an opportunity for us to begin to erase a lot of some damage that's been done. And that can happen, but it needs to be done, right? We recognize where we've gotten, right? But the reality is that we have the power to begin to reverse that, right? We have the power, because here's the thing, you know, I taught school at some point in my life, and so I've seen how so many people kind of depend on school for certain things, right? You talked about prayer not being in school, you talked about punishment. Right.
Things are just common sense.
Well, one thing I've learned in life is that common sense ain't always so common.
It ain't so common. we living in that right now. It ain't so common.
Common sense ain't always so common, right? Right. But my point is this: reverse that by teaching teaching who we have now, right? One of the mindsets that I think needs to change is this: we can't just live for now. I hear people saying, "I gotta get mine. Gotta get mine." Listen, that shouldn't be what it's about. What it has to be about in our homes is doing things in our communities that are going to benefit us now, but mostly for those coming behind.
Well, I say mine's out of school.
We all have to start thinking that way, right?
I can't tell everybody how to raise their child.
You can't, but you can start where you at, though.
Exactly.
You know, and if everybody start where they at, thinking the same way, we can make those changes and begin to do things that are going to benefit our community. Because we're not doing things just for us and our individual family, but we're making decisions that are going to affect those coming behind us.
I understand, but it's like
in our community, right? Does that make sense?
we also got to put people in office that has our best interest in mind. And not just voting people because someone said that that's a good person, but you can only research on the person, you know what I'm saying? They have nothing to offer that, that benefits you.
Right. So
why would you go for that?
Right, so the things you're talking about, man, listen, it's not a quick fix, everybody. It didn't happen overnight, right? It ain't gonna be fixed overnight, right? But it's conversations like this, right, where we have to plant the seeds in our communities to start going in the right direction. Everybody here can think about something that we talked about, and I want to challenge you. Share it with somebody in your family. Talk about it at the dinner table, right? Make everybody come to the dinner table. Make everybody come to the dinner table and talk about it.
So what they find out but then the same money that they've been talking about reparations for African Americans, they still can't find. Why is no one in Washington having that conversation?
Why say it again?
Why is they found all this extra money that they can come up with for the stimulus and to get a certain, but the same money that they owe us as people, they can't find it.
So when they can print out that money. They go print out that money.
But no one in Washington want to have that conversation.
Yeah. So actually, that's a good question, and like I want to kind of change like how you view it, because like this is something my mom always taught me, because I